Hello, and you're through to the Snipers Club. I'm your host, the Nightwatchman, and today we're going to be talking about the big weekend of boxing, being headlined by Tim the Soul Taker Tszyu up against the equally fun named Sebastian Fundora for the WBO middleweight title, which is going to be Tim Tszyu's Vegas debut. Now, everyone's been really excited about this guy. He's come through with a hell of an amateur record of 33-1. He's absolutely torn his way through the division so far. He's hit a bit of a roadblock here because he was supposed to be fighting Keith Thurman, which is personally the kind of fight that I think he should have been having now. After steamrolling through his first 24 opponents, having someone like Fundora come his way isn't really something that's going to step him up in class or make to see what the big bad fighter we're all hoping he can be. But you can only fight who's in front of you, and being this is his first fight in Vegas, then maybe it'll be a bigger step to a few other things. I mean, it's always interesting watching someone who's the son of a Hall of Famer. I mean, his dad was big and bad. One of my favourite boxers to watch growing up. Kostya Tszyu was an absolute warrior. And to be following in and carrying his name is a hell of a thing for any boxer to do. I mean, personally, I think we've not quite had someone who's managed to follow in the Hall of Fame father's footsteps. I mean, we've had a couple of close calls. I mean, Eubank Jr. has fought his way really, really well, but he's just never really been quite it. I mean, then when he had Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who was really, really good, but then he hit that brick wall with Sergio Martinez. But Tszyu looks a real deal. Like I said, amateur pedigree, followed by a serious record, and now he's taking the big step up into the big time in Vegas, and now let's see what he's really got. Because if he can get through this, maybe after this he'll get his chance at Thurman, and then maybe we can start talking real business. Maybe he can fight one of the Charlo brothers or Gervonta Davis, and we can actually see if he's really got the minerals for it, and he can live up to that big bad Tszyu name. I really hope he can, because he's absolutely great to watch. It's nice to see a proper boxer come out of Australia. I think him and Jay Opecha are the two guys who look like they're going to really bring Australian boxing to the fore over the next 10 years. But let's see, because he needs to stop fighting these second-rate fighters like Fundora and really take the step up. But hopefully this will get him in the limelight. Like I said, he's in Vegas, so let's see. I mean, the bookies kind of know what's coming here. I've got to say, I completely agree with them. You'll get $1.20, which is genuinely available. But then again, it's a shorty and these always come with risks. But personally, I'd say that, yeah, it's going to be a foregone conclusion. Tszyu's going to absolutely run through this Fundora guy. He's part of a group of characters that Tszyu has absolutely smashed through. We'll be talking about another one of those in just a minute. But for now, Tszyu's on to bigger and better things, and he's not going to let this chap stand in his way. So if you fancy that $1.20, then, you know, the risk's on you guys, but I don't think it's much of one. It might be an easy 20 cents maybe here or there, depending on how you're going. But there's also a couple of interesting fights on the undercard that are well worth looking into, with some interesting names and a couple of up-and-comers and some interesting decisions from the bookmakers. And the first one I want to look at is, in fact, Tim Tszyu's last victim, a chap called Brian Mendoza, who fights out of Albuquerque in New Mexico. And he's fighting this up-and-coming Ukrainian chap called Sergey Bohachuk. Now, Bohachuk has this absolutely fearsome KO record. He's had 23 fights, won 22 of them in knockout, but he got knocked out in a round once, but that can happen to anyone. But there ain't a single name on that record. The most recognisable name that I can see on there is Tyrone Brunson, who had a bit of that KO record that he's only famous for, but really can't box worth toffee. And all of these fights have been in leisure centres and dodgy back alley Indian casinos. And now he's fighting on the undercard against someone called Brian Mendoza, who's never been stopped, looks like a tough cookie. And what we've got here is Bohachuk is odds-on favourite, despite having never really fought anyone of any note anywhere interesting. And relying on this KO record, I'm always wary about massive KO records because they're always against chumps, and you're always fighting chumps until you come up against a real chin. which I think Mendoza has. And Mendoza's got a serious pedigree. He's tough. He stuck it out against Tszyu, and let's not pretend this Bohachuk's even close to as good as Tszyu is. From what I've seen, you look at him, there's some great videos of him on YouTube, by the way, showing all 22 of his rockouts. He don't look like much. He's got some technique, but the power, you know, he seems to be catching people and having favourable conditions from the ref. So what you'll find is generally available is $2.63 on Mendoza to win this one. And I think that's an interesting bet because I think they've oversold it. They've underpriced Mendoza there. He's a good boxer, and this Bohachuk is who is he? I mean, he looks alright, but then again, like I said, fearsome KO records against nobodies in leisure centres ain't much, is it? So if you fancy a go on that, generally available, $2.63, Brian Mendoza to beat Serhei Bohachuk. No, it's also worth noting that Bohachuk was supposed to be originally fighting Sebastian Fundora, who is going up against Tszyu now, who is in fact a southpaw, but he's now gone back to Mendoza, who's fighting orthodox. So that's a very, very interesting switch in what you've been training for, and doing this at a week's notice. Mendoza might well be ready for him, you know. Now the other one I've got, which I also find quite interesting, is Rolando Romero versus Isaac Cruz. Now, these guys have been fighting around the same sort of lightweight division. They've both lost to Gervonta Davis over the last couple of years. And they're both kind of taking wins and taking victories off each other's rivals and other people in the division and other members of the top 10. So to me it seems like a very, very close fight. And the only real difference I can see is that Gervonta Davis actually managed to stop Romero, but he didn't stop Cruz. But Davis has stopped bigger and better fighters, and he can always have had an off night. So it's an even fight. So for Romero to be put at $3.60 with Betfred, I think that one's quite interesting, especially as Cruz is giving away quite a lot of reach and quite a lot of weight in this one. Now, it's an even fight. It could go either way, like I said. It's an interesting one, but Isaac Cruz being so heavily odds on and Romero being at $3.60, I think that's worth a sniff. That's worth a little look. I think I might stick a cheeky tenner on that, see what happens. But either way, it's an exciting night of boxing. 3 big fights that I'm all looking forward to, especially looking forward to Tszyu. I really want to see what he can do in the big time, what he can do when everyone's looking at him, and hopefully this will be the sign of something big, and hopefully he can live up to his dad's big legacy. But either way, that's all of this from me at the Snipers Club. Please follow us on our Discord, like, share, and help our channel grow.